Adoption absolutely is changing the way we form our families, the way we perceive families, the way we perceive basic concepts of life like nature and nurture, the importance of blood ties, how families are formed, what they look like. I think that adoption is having a significant effect on helping us understand how our country is changing, how our lives are changing. So I think that in that way, certainly adoption touches us all, and I think certainly has impact on our kids who are growing up with very different understandings of all of these things than we did. So in fact, the impact is huge. Roughly 100 million Americans have adoption in their immediate family. And that doesn't include the social workers, it doesn't include the teachers, it doesn't include my kids' classmates. When you add all those up, you certainly are in the hundreds of millions. And I would argue if you add the friends and neighbors and your colleagues and all the people who touch your life and whose life you touch, and those of the kids, you hit just about everybody. I was a reporter for the Boston Globe. And my wife and I discovered we were infertile, which is how many people come to adoption. And we went to an informational meeting about how you adopt. And I did not come out of there thinking, oh my God, my life is going to be complete. This happened later. I'm going to have a family. I wanted a family, but it was an informational meeting. What I did come out of there thinking is, oh my God, what a good story. I was being a reporter. And I saw a subject that I thought many people did not know a lot about. And that's what reporters want to tell people. So I started writing about it, researching it. I thought this is a really interesting subject, and I wanted to write a book about it. At some point during the writing of that book, I understood that this really was about my kids, and not just about a reporting job, not just about a book. Every parent's dream is to make the world better for their children. And it just dawned on me that maybe this is the way that I can do it for mine. We've gone through long national conversations about how we treat those kids in the class who have divorced parents, who have step families, also who maybe have biracial parents. I mean, we've gone through lots of those conversations. We have not done it with adoption, because adoption's a secret and all that stuff. But now it's out in the light, and it's time we do it. And what we discover when we do it is it's an equity issue. That is, if a kid is called a racist name or a name that makes fun of their religion or their gender, that's a teaching moment, right? Unallowed. How about if the kid says to another kid, oh, he did that because he's adopted? Well, I've had that happen. I've seen that happen. And the teacher says, oh, come on, guys, break it up. Wow, you think that kid was any less hurt? But it was not a teaching moment because the teacher didn't understand it. And the fact that the kid could say it, because he learned that somewhere, that was an insult, is indicative of the fact that we have not done a good enough job yet of educating people about the needs of adopted kids and of their families. It's really easy to get teachers to do the right thing on this stuff, because teachers, unlike too many other people in society, for a living try to help children. They get that that's a good thing. It's what they do. So my experience when I go into classrooms is that it's a really easy push. They want the information. They want to do the right thing. It does not require a lot of materials. It requires a cognition that here's the right thing. So I think that this effort that is part of this project to disseminate adoption information through the schools is going to have a powerful effect, because it's going to have a receptive audience in the educators, and it's going to have a huge audience in the kids and their families. So I think the potential for doing a lot of good very quickly is really, really big. In terms of adoption, when we do the right thing for adoptive families in schools, for just as one example, we do the right thing for families who have kids, for families that are divorced and have kids in that school, for single-parent families, for a majority of the families. So when we advocate for our kids, we're doing the right thing for the kids who are in literally the majority of families because they face the same issues. Some of them are issues of loss, some are of pain, some are wonderful issues, but all of it affects them. And we do a better job for those children and their families if we simply understand it. And that really goes way, way beyond those millions of adoptive families. People have misconceptions about a lot of different areas. They don't think adoptive parents love their kids as much. What pure nonsense. But, it's hard to learn about secrets. They think that kids in foster care, and here's an example that really has genuine, on-the-ground impact for thousands and thousands of lives. People have this perception that kids in foster care are so troubled that we can't possibly adopt them. We can't possibly give them a home. We can't possibly have a normal life. Well, people want normal lives. People want to love their kids. And so the consequence is that there are thousands of children who don't get homes. There are thousands of judges who don't give those kids homes. This is a system that has a lot of imperfections, to say the least. One of the values of teaching people about reality is that they suddenly see, oh my God, my next door neighbor adopted a 5-year-old and it's great. My brother just adopted a 2-year-old from foster care and she's doing wonderfully now. What do we do if we get an imperfect child biologically? If we give birth to an imperfect child, we say, oh, I'm going to give that one back. Of course not. We can love all sorts of children, and what adoption is teaching us is that we can and do, and that those families are successful. Disasters like Hurricane Katrina and the tsunami before it and lots of wars and other disasters around the country, oddly enough, teach us the importance of knowledge about adoption. We don't think about it that way. But of course they do, because our instincts tell us, oh my God, there are these kids, we got to give them a home, let's adopt them. And people flock to adoption agencies to say exactly that and to pressure them. Where are the kids? Where are the kids? We're ready to give them a home. Come on, what's the holdup here? That's a wonderful, human, heartfelt instinct that's not very well informed, alas. And it's why the work of institutes like the Adoption Institute that I had is so important, and why I might say good media coverage, a good PBS movie, is so important. Because once we really understand the needs of children and families, we look at that disaster differently. Just as a quick example, in the wake of Katrina, do those kids really need homes and new parents? Are their parents maybe 2 states away? Is grandma maybe 2 states away? We don't want to give children new homes, adoptive homes, if they have relatives who they know, who they feel stable and safe with. What she needs or he needs is safety, is emotional support, not to be put into a group of strangers, however well-intentioned. The media is like so many other institutions in our country. It is uninformed by the realities of adoption simply because adoption was a shameful secret for generations. So how would they learn? So the miracle is that they do the job as well as they do. But they haven't learned. And so the result is that they don't use good language relating to adoption. They call me an adoptive parent. And they call my kids' biological parents real parents. Well, how do you think that makes kids feel? They're not being raised by their real parents? So the language, and there are lots of examples like that. So language is one example of the problem. To understand adoption, I think, is not just to understand foster care, or not just to understand inter-country adoption, not just to understand relative adoption or infant adoption. That gives us a linear view and a linear understanding. One of the great benefits, I think, of this film, of this project altogether, is that it's going to look at all the different types of adoption. It's going to look at the commonalities and the differences. It's going to teach us something, because when you have a bunch of puzzle pieces and you're looking at each one individually, you don't have a full understanding of the picture. When you put all those puzzle pieces together, you go, aha, now I get it. This film is the effort to put all those puzzle pieces together. It is going to be the first time that there will be a film, and it's not just the film, the website, the educational outreach afterward, all of it, that is designed to help everyone understand that it's about them, why they should care. Because when you give the context, they'll find out that they should care. They'll find out that it's not about him or her, it's about them, and it's about their kids. Because this is an institution that touches everyone's life in a multitude of ways. It's not just about those millions of adoptive families and people touched by adoption. It's really about everybody. And I think that once it's out there, people understand that. The fact that PBS wants to put this on the air is great on several levels. One, it puts a formal imprimatur on the subject matter. It's never been taken this seriously before. You know, it's the subject of the movie of the week. It pulls your heartstrings. But too much of what we all know about adoption is the result of the movie of the week. Well, guess what? That's not based in fact. That's not based in experience. So we're not necessarily understanding what it's all about. This project, this film, promises to be the first time that the subject is treated in a serious way, that the subject is treated in its full breadth, and it's so that people understand it. And that means warts and all, but it means joys and all. And that's something that the media other media simply have not given the American people. There's so many different ways in which the lessons we learn from adoption are helpful to us. One thing that we learn from adoption that's wonderful and that's good for kids who need homes is that we love them just as wholly, just as completely, just as passionately as if we gave birth to them, and vice versa. That's a wonderful thing to know about human nature and the human spirit. Adoption is all about love. Adoption is all about family, and it's not the traditional way in which we form families. You know, a white couple adopts a baby who's black or Hispanic or Asian, suddenly has some rethinking of identity issues and parenting issues to do. And that's, I would argue, a good thing for the kid and for the family. But more than that, it's not just the family. Because suddenly there are, Jews holding Chinese cultural festivals at synagogues. There are Irish people with their African American kids at St. Paddy's Day festival. This affects whole communities. And as a consequence, our sense of who we are, what we look like as a people, as individual peoples, these are profound lessons that adoption is teaching us. Boy, is adoption a great instructor. We've had it around for a long time, and we've been able to assimilate its lessons at a subtle level. We need to do it at a higher level for a very long time. I think lots of the work that the Institute does, and certainly what the film is going to accelerate, is all of our understandings that those issues are part of all our lives.